Ken Robinson, one of his lines is, creativity is as important as literacy. That really struck me, actually. And at the moment, I actually left my marketing career last year, and I'm working now with a company called ReadingWise, who have an online literacy intervention for the 20% of children who struggle with reading. It's hard to believe in this country, 20% of children leave primary school unable to read to the required standard. Absolutely disgraceful. And there's a lot of pressure on families, on children reading, and a lot of parents don't probably spend as much time as they should reading to their children. And it really just struck me, it's almost the greatest gift a parent can give a child is to actually spend time reading with their child. And I just want to just play a very short film. It's only 2 minutes. Save the Children made this film, and they put it on massive PR. They had it on breakfast television every morning. Every morning. You try and get on breakfast television once a year, let alone every morning in a week. David Walliams, Sunday Times, the Sun newspaper, massive campaign. And I still come across people, parents, teachers particularly, who have never seen this film. I was at a conference with my literacy hat on. As I say, I'm just a dad. I'm not a literacy expert. And I saw somebody do a speech and do a short talk about the work that they're doing here in Liverpool, an incredible job of changing lives with literacy. And could you all please give a very, very warm welcome to Jane Davis from The Reader.
The story of a boy who shot a book, and he attended a Read for Pleasure summer school last year at Calderstone's mansion, and when we asked him what he thought about reading, this is what he gave us. It's pretty clear what the message is. He didn't want to be there, and he didn't want anything to do with books or reading. He's 12 years of age, and that does not bode very well for his future as a creative person. It's not just kids. Here are 3 people in Birkenhead YMCA a number of years ago. You said 20% of kids leaving school unable to read properly, but actually I think the figure is closer to probably 30%. And there are certainly in Liverpool areas of town where the numbers of adults who can't read is over 60%. There is a way through that, and I think that is the moment where Terry bursts into being able to read, having read with me and these other 2 guys for weeks on end in that rather grotty little room. The boy who drew the picture, would you like to guess which one it is? Okay, it's certainly not the man in the Liverpool kit, because look how he is mirroring Frank Cottrell Boyce's stance and relation to the book. After 2 or 3 days at summer school, Liverpool kit man was away. He was reading, though the first day he was simply saying, "I'll swear at you if you put me near a book." But let's call him George, is still saying with his body language, no. And that's a pity on 2 counts. One, just the academic count here. If you want to look this up, it's a study from the Institute of Education that tells us that reading for pleasure, that is to say, reading of your own free will, on your own time, when nobody's told you to, helps build cognitive development. That's to say, your brain works better if you read for pleasure. So what is reading for pleasure, and how do you make it happen? Here's a little bit of how you make it happen. Summer school boys, both anti-books and anti-reading, simply playing in the back garden with dressing up clothes. And you can see, he's the guy in the LFC kit. He has found a way to express himself that nobody would ever have imagined. In his Gruffalo come princess outfit, he's beginning to enjoy himself. There he is, wearing 3 hats and a gorilla mask. You may say, what has this to do with reading for pleasure? And he answers, it's pleasure. So before we get to the reading, let's experience pleasure, shall we? Because these children did not know that those 2 things existed side by side. So I thought, the first thing to do, let them enjoy themselves. What would you like to do today at Reading for Pleasure Summer School? We'd like to play in the park. Okay, let's play in the park. We want to climb trees. Okay, let's climb trees. We want to go around the lake and do fishing. Okay, let's go and do fishing. We want an ice cream. Let's have one. Pleasure. You can see LFC kid here reading. He didn't stop reading from day 2, though he was swearing his head off when he walked in. So it was easy for him, but for Man in Gorilla Mask, it took quite a bit longer. There is the moment where it began to happen for him, and it happened because he wanted to spend some time with Mike, our head of operations, right? So there he is, reading Funny Bones, a book that is not really suitable for 12-year-olds. Age appropriate? No, it's more for a 6-year-old. But that was the one he wanted. That was the one he could enjoy. Why? It was easy, and it was funny. You could have some pleasure in it. Liverpool, City of Football. I'm running a project called City of Readers, and it is my job to transform. This is my seat at LFC. I'm sadly a season ticket holder. Not much pleasure there. But yet I go every time, and so do members of my family. So I began to think, not really enjoying myself too much this last season. Why do we all do this? What is the pleasure? And how could I change Liverpool, City of Football, into Liverpool, City of Reading? What can I learn from this that I can take into my day job as somebody who needs to up those figures of people who will, of their own free will, in their own time, go and do a thing? So I looked at my own family. There you go, Jeff. You recognise some members of my family. And, you know, they're not perfect supporters, but they are willing to do it in front of this small child, right? He isn't getting the perfect Liverpool kit. That's really old. But does the child in the middle know that? No, he just knows these two guys do this thing, and I copy them. That's all he knows. This is that child, 3 weeks out of hospital with possible brain damage from a traumatic birth. And you can see that a paediatrician has advised us to get him into reading straight away. He is making out black and white marks on a page, and you can see that he is concentrating, and some cognitive development is taking place right in front of our eyes. As he tries to make out the differences between the edges of things. What's black? What's white? How do you distinguish the world? This is another member of my family learning to read with his engineer dad. And you can see that cognitive development may be taking place, but something else is also happening here. Anybody like to throw me a word? Bonding, yeah, love. Love is happening. And that relationship that will take, I mean, good for dad. He has a stressful life and a stressful job. Lovely to have that feeling of the baby relaxing against you. But good for the baby to think those black and white marks are connected to this lovely feeling of being completely, safely with this huge hulking creature, my father. And later, another grandchild reading for 20 minutes on his own in a room by himself, reading, he can't read, he's only 2.5, reading a medical textbook. For what? I don't know, but I took about 100 photographs during that 20 minutes of him simply concentrating and turning the pages very slowly. We heard earlier from Sir Ken that there is inner life as well as outer life. And I think that something is happening in that child that is to do with inner, the sense of peace in it. What is that peace? But it is a peace that readers know about. Something calming happens to you. As well as the ability to build that intense concentration. He's 4 at this point. He still can't read. But would you say he could read? Is he reading? Yes, he is. He is doing the thing. Now that's me in Calderstone's Story Barn, where we're building an interactive, immersive reading space for children in this city. It will be open by the end of the summer. building on the things we learned in the summer school with the boy who shot a book, we're going to make it a bit like a fun palace. It's going to be totally about enjoying yourselves, and there will be no L word. We don't call it literacy. That doesn't sound very nice. I like to call it reading. I like to call it pleasure. So the barn will be made into a very beautiful building, and it will have lots of imagination in it. And children will be invited to come and be in an environment where there are books and people who love books and things to play with, and lots of hats and gorilla costumes and other things you can put on and become something. This is our International Centre for Reading at Calderstones Mansion, up in the south of the city at Calderstones Park. You don't need a beautiful place. You need an adult who is willing to share their passion for story and for book with you. This was a quotation from a child in the city we were working with in a school in a pretty tough area. You could all do this, and we're looking for volunteers. Thanks.
Sometimes the schools that we have are still implementing a model of education which doesn't exist anymore.
Steamco that put together this event is doing fantastic work. It's putting the A back in, which is for the arts.
What I want to see for the children in my class and my own kids is that they have an exploratory nature.
Powering Art Meets Science events in UK schools, we give them a day of creative thinking and doing activities across the STEAM skills.
So our work is looking for ways to break through those inequalities and close the creativity gap.
Within everything around us is embedded hundreds of ideas waiting to be found. We've just got to look closer.
What changed my life was somebody like me being an artist.
It was really, really interesting, and I think the children felt really quite inspired by it.
Because the people who are crazy enough to think they can change the world are the ones who do.